Growing up, my life revolved around the family business, a mid-sized auto parts manufacturing company that my grandfather had started with nothing but an old warehouse, a few machines, and a relentless work ethic. My dad took it to the next level, modernizing it, expanding, and turning it into a respected name in our town. From the age of 12, I was in the factory every summer, sweeping floors, checking inventory, learning machines, and soaking in everything I could. He always said, "Someday this will be yours. Just earn it." And I did. While my friends partied during college breaks, I was working side by side with our lead machinists. I majored in mechanical engineering and minored in business management, all tailored to one goal: taking over and growing our family legacy. By the time I was 25, I was managing production workflows and had introduced a new software system that cut costs by 15%. My dad praised me in front of staff, told investors I was the future. Every move I made was measured, calculated, with the bigger picture in mind. I lived, breathed, and sacrificed for this company. And then came Zach. Zach is my dad's sister's son, my cousin, the golden child of my aunt's side of the family. The kind of guy who wore expensive sneakers to pretend he was entrepreneurial, while living off his mom's bank account. He showed up to family events late, wore sunglasses indoors, and talked about crypto and grinding, but didn't last more than a week at any job. He never set foot in our factory, never studied business, barely finished community college. After 3 years of partying. And yet, the year my dad turned 62, he dropped a bomb on me during a casual lunch in his office. "I've been thinking of retirement," he said, sipping his coffee. "Time to let the next generation step up." I smiled. "I'm ready, Dad. You know that." He nodded slowly. "I do. But I'm giving Zach a shot at leading for a while. See what fresh ideas he might bring." My heart stopped. "What?" I asked, thinking I misheard him. "I want to see how Zach handles things. He's got some interesting ideas. Tech stuff, networking, more social media presence. It's time to evolve." I laughed bitterly, assuming it was a joke. "He doesn't even know how our systems work." Dad sighed. "You're great at what you do, son. But sometimes, being too close to something makes you rigid. Let Zach try. You'll still be involved, of course." Still be involved? That afternoon, Zach was introduced to the management team as the new strategic lead, while I was told to focus more on operations, which is corporate talk for stay in your lane. From day one, Zach turned the place into a playground. He brought in influencer friends to film promotional videos in the factory, interrupting the workflow. He fired 2 experienced supervisors to cut dead weight and replaced them with his poker buddies. He started messing with supplier contracts, trying to negotiate better deals, and we ended up losing 2 of our best partners. When I tried to talk to Dad, he brushed it off. "Give him time," he said. "He's learning." No, he wasn't. He was destroying. By the 3rd month, our on-time delivery rate dropped 18%. Customer complaints doubled. Employee morale was sinking. People who'd been there for decades started quitting. One night, I stayed late with Rosa, our head of logistics. Going over the latest disaster, Zach had accidentally canceled an order with our largest retailer, thinking it was a duplicate. It cost us $70,000, and the client was threatening to pull the contract. I confronted Zach in front of Dad the next morning. I laid out every misstep, every loss, every red flag. Zach didn't defend himself. He smirked. "You're just mad because I'm in charge now," he said. Dad stood between us and told me to watch my tone. That's when it clicked. This wasn't a test. This wasn't temporary. My dad had chosen Zach, not for his competence, but for some warped belief that I was too much like him, and Zach was the fresh start. I walked out of that meeting knowing one thing. I wasn't going to argue anymore. I was going to outwork, outsmart, and outlast Zach, not for my father's approval, but because this business mattered to me in a way it never would to him. And I had a plan. The morning after that meeting, I got up at 5 a.m. as usual. Same routine. Coffee. Factory. Floor by 6:15. But this time, I had a different mindset. I wasn't there as my father's son anymore. I was there as a professional, watching a ship drift toward disaster, and quietly preparing my own lifeboat. I started by building alliances. Quietly. Carefully. I met with Rosa, was her logistics manager, and asked her to keep duplicating all internal communication and data logs, just in case things got blamed on her later. I looped in Dan from quality control, an old school guy who'd worked with my grandfather and hated the direction things were heading. And Carla, our CFO, who was visibly stressed since Zach started funneling money into branding experiments with no actual ROI. I wasn't plotting revenge. Not yet. I was documenting incompetence, because I knew Zach's collapse wasn't a matter of if, but when. Meanwhile, Zach kept on rebranding. He had the logo redesigned by a high school buddy who used AI and Comic Sans. Yes, Comic Sans. He painted 2 machines bright neon blue for aesthetic appeal. He started a podcast called Zach Talks Auto, where he rambled about success and vision, never once mentioning what we actually manufactured. Customers noticed. Orders slowed, and within 6 months, our numbers were in free fall. I thought maybe then my dad would step in, but he didn't. Worse, he started defending Zach harder. "He's trying something new," he kept saying. "You never tried to innovate like this." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had innovated. Smarter supply chains, streamlined workflow, automated maintenance alerts. But I didn't. Wear designer hoodies or tweet about it, so I guess it didn't count. One day, Carla walked into my office, pale. "We're behind on payroll," she said. "What?" I told Zach we needed to delay those influencer sponsorships and postpone the new vending lounge. He insisted on going ahead. Now we're short. That was it. My blood ran cold. Zach had jeopardized employee salaries for social media. "Optics! I tried one last time to go to my father. Dad, you have to see what's happening," I said. "People are talking about quitting. Orders are slipping. You told me to earn this. I did. I'm not asking for a handout. I'm asking you to stop this guy before he ruins everything Grandpa built." He didn't meet my eyes. I already told Zach he's got a year to prove himself. "A year? At this rate, we won't make it through the next quarter." "I've made my decision," he said, standing up. "Drop it." That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling of my apartment, heart pounding, brain racing. Fine, I thought. If he's made his decision, then so have I. The next morning, I started pulling every document, email thread, and internal report I'd compiled over the last 6 months. Carla helped. So did Rosa. Even Dan, gruff, no-nonsense Dan, handed me a flash drive with maintenance logs showing how Zach's efficiency tweaks had increased machine breakdowns by 30%. I packaged it all into a private investor report. Clean, professional, no accusations. Just facts. Then I scheduled a series of lunch meetings with 3 key stakeholders. Our biggest client, a chain of auto retailers, our primary supplier, who'd threatened to walk after Zach's payment delays, and our long-term equipment financing firm. So each meeting ended the same way. "If Zach remains in charge," I told them, "you're going to lose money. But I have a backup plan." I showed them my blueprint, a leaner, smarter operations model, a path to profitability, a return to values without sacrificing growth. I wasn't asking for them to jump ship. I was offering to build them a better one. They didn't commit on the spot, but they listened closely. Then came the breaking point. Zach made a TikTok in the middle of the factory floor during an active shift. He blasted loud music, danced on top of a crate of freshly packaged parts, and knocked them over. The video went viral, but not in the way he hoped. Workers' faces were visible. OSHA violations were obvious. Clients were furious. Our largest buyer sent an email that same afternoon. We are suspending all orders effective immediately pending leadership review. This level of mismanagement is unacceptable. It was over, and my father knew it. He called an emergency board meeting. Carla and I were there. Zach arrived late in sunglasses, sipping iced coffee like he was walking into a podcast recording. The room was tense. My father stood at the head of the table and cleared his throat. "I made a mistake," he said. Zach froze. The sunglasses came off. "I thought fresh ideas would help," my dad continued. "But we've lost clients, damaged our reputation, and nearly missed payroll. I can't justify continuing down this road," Zach scoffed. "Are you serious? After all, Dad raised his hand. "Enough." He turned to me. "If you're still willing. The company needs you." I didn't smile. I didn't nod. I just opened my folder, pulled out a printed recovery plan, and slid it across the table. "Let's start with this," I said. But I wasn't doing this to prove anything to my father anymore. This was personal. This was legacy. This was mine to fix. And I would, no matter what it took. Taking the reins wasn't as satisfying as I thought it would be. There was no applause, no heroic music, no warm handshake from my father. Just a room full of tired faces, a balance sheet in the red, and a company hanging by a thread. But it was mine now, my mess to clean up. The first thing I did was shut everything unnecessary down. Zach's branding budget? Gone. The vending machine lounge he was building in the break room? Cancelled. I removed every one of his posters, the ones with cringe-worthy slogans like "Hustle first, think later," and replaced them with a plain whiteboard showing production goals, daily targets, and pending orders. I knew the employees were watching me, some cautiously, some hopefully, some still skeptical. Many had quietly suffered under Zach's leadership, but they weren't sure if I'd be any different. So I made it clear, right away, that I wasn't Zach. I went back to the floor, shoulder to shoulder with the team. Loading pallets, fixing machine. Jams, checking QC reports by hand. When I called the first full team meeting under my leadership, people actually showed up early. "I know we've lost a lot," I told them. "Trust, orders, momentum. But we haven't lost each other. I'm not here to talk down to you or impress you. I'm here to listen, to work, and to earn every one of you back." Rosa clapped first. Then others joined in. Not a standing ovation, but something far better. A start. Then came the damage control. I spent every lunch hour calling clients, personally. I apologized where needed, offered discounts where necessary, and presented the recovery plan in full detail. Our largest client, the one who had suspended all orders, agreed to give us a 30-day trial window to prove we were back on track. I pulled all-nighters reviewing Zach's contracts. That's when I found it. A sketchy partnership he'd see, signed with a third-party logistics startup that charged triple for weekend deliveries and had zero insurance coverage. It explained half our losses in one quarter. I terminated the deal instantly, renegotiated with our original carrier, and saved nearly $40,000 in 2 weeks. That got Carla's attention. "You're doing more in 2 weeks than Zach did in 6 months, she told me. I appreciated the compliment, but I wasn't doing this to impress Carla either. I was doing it to restore something that had been slowly poisoned. Dignity. Not just mine. The company's. My team's. There was one conversation I had been avoiding, with Zach. He hadn't shown his face since the board meeting. I assumed he was nursing his bruised ego somewhere, or maybe trying to become a YouTube business coach. But one day, I found him waiting by my car. "You stole everything from me," he said, voice low. I leaned against the door and crossed my arms. "You mean the thing you destroyed. I didn't steal anything. You burned it down. I just picked up the ashes," he laughed bitterly. "You think you're so much better because you wear a tool belt and smile at the workers." "No," I said. "I think I'm better because I care. About them. About this place. About the legacy our grandfather built." Zach stepped closer. "You think this place is gonna love you forever? You'll get tired. You'll slip. Then, they'll toss you aside too. I didn't flinch. Maybe. But if I fall, it won't be because I made a TikTok during a fire drill. He didn't say another word, just walked away. I haven't seen him since. But that moment solidified something. For me, Zach had always thought leadership was about being seen in power. I'd learned it was about earning it, every single day. 3 weeks into the recovery plan, something wild happened. One of our clients, a luxury car parts distributor in Texas, called me directly. "I've been watching how you turned things around," he said. "We're expanding our line. Want in?" It wasn't a small deal. It would increase our output by 40%. It would mean hiring again. It would mean growth. I flew to Texas the next morning, signed the papers myself. When I got back, I called an emergency team meeting, but this time for good news. "We've got new contracts," I announced. "Big ones, which means overtime pay is coming. Back, so are benefits. We're rebuilding, and it's because of all of you." There was cheering, clapping. Even Dan smiled, which was a miracle. But there was one more step left. One conversation I couldn't avoid any longer. My father. He showed up a week later, unannounced, walked into my office and looked around at the whiteboards, the stacked files, the photo of Grandpa I'd pinned above the door. "You've done well," he said. I nodded. "Thanks. I underestimated you. I know. I was wrong about Zach. I know that too." There was a long pause. He looked older than I remembered. Softer. "I thought you needed to be tested. I thought if I made you earn it through adversity, you'd become stronger." I stood up and faced him. "I didn't need Zach to fail for me to grow. I've been strong. You just didn't want to see it." He nodded quietly. "You're right. That was the closest thing I ever got to an apology. And honestly, it was enough, because I wasn't doing this for him anymore. I was doing this for me, and I wasn't done yet." The following year was the most intense of my life. We expanded slowly but smartly, one new contract at a time. I brought back workers we'd lost during Zach's reign, not just because they were good, but because I wanted to show people this place could still be a home. I replaced outdated systems with efficient ones. The factory floor got quieter, cleaner, faster. Instead of blowing cash on branding like Zach, I let our results speak. Clients came back. New ones found us. Our numbers climbed, and for the first time in years, we hit profit. Not break even. Actual profit. I reinvested a good portion of it into the staff. Quarterly bonuses, improved healthcare, upgraded safety, gear. When I rolled out profit sharing, the room went silent. Some teared up. "This isn't just my win," I told them. "It's ours." By the second year, we weren't just surviving. We were the best in the region. We had wait lists. Big name. Companies were calling us, not the other way around. And when a national logistics magazine did a feature titled "The Comeback Factory," I saw my face on the cover. But I wasn't chasing fame. I was chasing peace. It came, slowly. In quiet moments, watching the crew laugh during break. Seeing orders ship out on time. Hearing old clients say, "You've restored our faith." My father began stopping by more often. He'd bring lunch sometimes. Mostly sat quietly and watched the operation run. We didn't talk about Zach. Not much needed to be said. Everyone knew what had happened. One day, as I was reviewing shipment data in the office, my father slid a folder across the table. "I want you to have this," he said. It was a legal packet. Transfer of ownership. The last technical step. "You already built it up," he continued. "You deserve to own it fully." I looked at the folder, and then at him. "You sure?" He smiled. That tired, old man smile I used to crave as a kid. I've never been more sure of anything. We signed the papers together. Just the two of us. Quiet. No champagne. No ceremony. But everything I needed. In the months after, something unexpected happened. Zach reached out. Not to gloat, not to fight. to apologize. I was a mess, he said on the call. Entitled. Arrogant. I didn't know what I had until I lost it. I didn't say much, just listened. I've started working again, he added. Different. Field. Trying to do it the right way this time. I wished him luck. Genuinely. Because I didn't carry hate anymore. I didn't have room for it. The factory was doing too well. I had too much joy in my days to make space for old bitterness. 1. Day after closing, I stayed back and walked the floor. Machines off. Everything silent. I thought about Grandpa, how he'd built this place with his bare hands, about my dad, and his silence, his struggle, his strange ways of testing love, about Zach, and how close we all came to losing. It all. And then I thought about me. The boy who was told to wait, who was passed over, underestimated, rejected, and yet I stayed. Fought. Built. The black sheep who now stood at the head of the table. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the old brass nameplate I'd kept from my first tiny desk near the factory entrance. It just said, Apprentice. I smiled, placed it gently in the trophy case by the front office, right next to the new plaque. CEO Ethan Rivera. Legacy reclaimed, not through shortcuts, not through inheritance, but by standing tall when everything was crumbling, and never walking away.